I'm Jason Rasidla reporting inside the San Marino Club in Troy. Stay tuned for more comments from this year's SAE Detroit section, State of the Industry meeting.
Talk about the employment challenge that we have ahead of us. Can you talk about some of the novel things that are out there, things on the horizon that you see that are going to help address that issue?
Well, I think there's a lot of tough issues here because by and large, and I'll go back to a conversation I had about a year and a half ago with the head of Mini's auto division. And as he sat in my office and we talked about this, he said every industrialized economy in the world at policy levels understands the importance of manufacturing in their economies. He says there's only one exception to that, and that's here in the United States. We have a message to bring to people about the importance of manufacturing. It's a great place for a career. And I can tell you one project that we're involved with, both Alan Mullally and Mark Royce are strong supporters of it. Alan's going to head up the advisory board on it, and it's broader than auto. It's called Building America's Tomorrow. And the idea is to, rather broadly, help people understand what modern manufacturing is. And auto is an example how important it is in the economy, and that there are going to be a lot of great jobs, and it's meant to turn kids and teachers and parents on to the importance of this field as a career opportunity, because frankly, when you get outside of Southeast Michigan and across the country, manufacturing is looked at as very 20th century, and it's not a place that people aspire to be a part of, and we have to change that very, very badly. Another thing that's going to be happening, and we're already seeing it, I had a friend, for example, whose daughter, as a senior in high school, was being recruited for a summer job. The recruiting effort is not going to be just when kids are seniors. You're going to have to try that much, much earlier. In fact, one of the things that we see is the potential of internships through a college career, summer jobs, and potentially even the forgiveness of tuition if somebody stays in the job for a few years. That's how critical the skill issue is, and it's going to grow. I have a granddaughter who is going to be a college athlete. She is being recruited by schools all over the country, and that started when she was 12. They can't come to her directly, but they go through the various coaches that she's had. This is in volleyball and basketball. She's a 6'5" girl, and there's not a lot of 6'5" girls around that are coordinated. But that same kind of thing, a coach wins if you have really good players. A company wins if you have really good players. And so the competition for talent is going to get really extreme. And I think what we are witnessing now is a combination of things where we have to sell the attractiveness of this industry and of manufacturing in general, and have to become much more active in the community and much more active with the colleges, community colleges, and 4 universities in terms of bringing young people into an environment where they can learn something about the opportunities in manufacturing. And when we talk about the demographics and the exit of the boomers, what that suggests is that the couple of generations prior to that are not very large. And so the opportunities for young people entering this field to have an accelerated career path is going to be very, very good. And we've got to bring that message to our young people. And we find today that when you talk to people about a career in manufacturing, that they think that is really old school, and it is not something that they aspire to.
Thank you, David. I'd like to commend the audience for not being in groupthink. I've got about 30 questions, and none of them are similar, so I'm going to almost do a lucky dip here. Neil, what is going to be critical to increase supplier confidence to that next level?
Well, I think really feeling that the volumes that are being projected are realistic, and that the product that's coming out is in fact what consumers want. I think a real challenge that we will continue to face regardless of how we in the industry operate is whether our government will take appropriate actions. As Dave talked about, and Jason also talked about, the price of fuel, whether it's from $1.50 to $5 a gallon, the uncertainty around that creates significant uncertainty in our industry about which product to bet your money on. And if you've got X dollars available to do the tooling for an SUV or pickup truck or some product of that nature versus a small car where you're going to bet your money if you can't bet both places. And we need more certainty in our industry, and our government needs to take some actions there by, after 30-some years of talking about we need an additional fuel tax, we need to face that reality in order to, I think, have the certainty that we need in our industry.
You know, let me just add something briefly to that, David, and that is, Neil talked about a collaboration, working together across non-traditional boundaries. It really works, and we're seeing people do that. And I think that's an extremely important part of what's coming down the pike here. Secondly, the importance of agility. The old business model focused on lean. The new business model is lean agile, so you can adapt more quickly as the circumstances change. Now, we're seeing this at the OEMs in terms of production capacity and so on, but when you start getting down into the suppliers, as Neil has pointed out, this can become a real problem. And the speed with which these volatility issues can hit from one extreme to another is something that we have to figure out how to live with and still be profitable.
Isn't there also a willingness to listen on the part of OEMs and suppliers, where that adversarial relationship has completely changed? You know, we talk to a lot of purchasing bosses now who say, you know what, we want to hear what the issues are on the other side of the table. And if the supplier is going to invest in a particular tool, we're not going to jump ship if there's something for a dime per part less. We're going to give them time to find a new solution. Is that not the case?
Absolutely true. Yeah, it's critical. And if you looked at the Ford 20 principles in the Aligned Business Framework, there's phenomenal commitment there between the parties in writing that needs to expand through the whole industry. If you look at the guiding principles that Dan Knott created for purchasing at Chrysler, these are very, very significant commitments, and if all parties can live up to them, we can make very, very significant improvements together.
You know, a significant factor related to suppliers too that a lot of people are not aware of, but at one point, less than 10% of the R&D related auto, many years back, was done at suppliers. Today it's close to 50%. And so the dependency now on the advanced technology that manufacturers are seeing in suppliers has really grown pretty dramatically. And so in a sense, it puts the manufacturers in a position where they cannot really make the kind of strides without a very collaborative relationship with suppliers.
Several of the questions came in talking about the market side, and unfortunately Lonnie's not here to address that, but I want to throw that question to you. What do you see as the state of the consumer and the ability to purchase vehicles, the desire to purchase vehicles? What are you beginning to see? And I'll make one comment. I went to the Pittsburgh Auto Show this past weekend. Pittsburgh is probably as middle America as you're going to get. They just lost the Super Bowl, so there wasn't a whole lot to be excited about in Pittsburgh. But there was a lot of excitement at the Pittsburgh Auto Show about the cars they were seeing. That was a positive thing, and you know, Pittsburgh has had its economic challenges as well, but there was a desire to buy cars to see out there. What do you see or sense as the state of the consumer?
Yeah, I think it's improved tremendously. I think that there's the consumers that stayed out of the market for the last year and a half because they were uncertain whether or not they were going to have a job, feel more comfortable. And now, you know, there are plenty of interesting options. When you can look at a product like the Hyundai Sonata as one example, look at what's packed into that package. I mean, anybody who's been out of the market now stepping into it says, well, I can get great fuel economy, I can get a great price, and by the way, I know the true cost now because of the advent of various tools we have online, and I don't have to mess around with this awful experience at the dealer, which was the traditional way of doing things.
But we have to keep in mind that consumer optimism, whether it's the Conference Board or the U of M surveys, are still pretty iffy. The one thing that has happened recently is that there's more available credit to a marginal buyer, and that is having a positive impact. But our economy, frankly, most people don't believe we're out of the recession yet, even though the economists say the numbers tell us we are. So there's tremendous uncertainty. It's one of the reasons that when you look forward on forecasts, there's such a variability in forecasts.